what is going on in America. We've had another black man shot by a police officer. Obviously, he didn't do nothing. He was a good boy, church every Sunday, you know, all the regular nonsense. But he was obviously involved in some kind of altercation. He was fleeing the police, refused to stop, and ended up being shot. This is in the same city where George Floyd died. There have been riots. Obviously, the Derek Chauvin George Floyd trial is going on now. Jason, how do you see this ending? How do you see this all panning out?
Well, this is the anti-white narrative, and this is what we teach in Going Free, is there is a narrative by which we are all forced to live our lives. It's fiction. It's primarily fiction. The anti-whites are able to orchestrate the narrative because they control the news, entertainment, media. They dominate the universities, etc. They take pieces of reality and they will insert, when they can bolster the anti-white narrative, this fiction with pieces of reality. Sometimes they'll fabricate from whole cloth and they'll say that's reality. And we have specific names for those sorts of things as well. We see it all the time. Hate hoaxes and the like. And most of the time, though, they'll take a piece of information from reality, like an incident like this, and then they will rewrite it, just like script writers for a movie, a fictionalized movie of something that supposedly took place, or a television series. And what happened in this case is that you have this wonderful young man, I'm sure well on his way to solving all the riddles of the universe, why we exist, and this sort of business. And he, of course, had one heck of a arrest record, and more continues to come out about him. Now, mind you, the police officers who pulled this individual over for dead tags, and I don't know, it's probably very similar across the West. You have it's different within the different states in the US as well. You're going to pay, in some states, you're going to pay a property tax, and that's demonstrated by stickers on your car. You also have to have, in some states, most states, inspection on the vehicle to show that it's in good running order, and you get stickers for that on your car. If the police officers do not see that, or they're expired or whatever, they're well within the right to pull you over and give you a ticket. So they saw this car going down the road with, I think, dead tags on it. And so it was a traffic stop. Well, when they pull you up to on their computer in the vehicle, it's not like the old days. I think people still sometimes get trapped in the old days, like they're waiting for some sort of report to come from somewhere. This all is instantaneous. His entire record comes up. And you know that this individual is, and as I say, this is leaking out to the public now, and there'll be more that we'll find out in the near future, but that this was a very violent individual. And the officers in the vehicle would have known, in the police car, they would have known exactly what this guy had done in the past and wanted for. And there is now, I guess, information leaking out to the public that he had beat up a woman or women or something of this nature. He had fled from law enforcement before, and he was wanted. So he had a warrant for his arrest. And his warrant for his arrest was for something quite serious, and that was owning a firearm illegally, and he had fled from the police before. So they knew when they pulled him over at that point that this was going to be an arrest, and that it might be a touch and go type of arrest. But the objective of the police officers at that point is just to get them out, have a normal conversation, get them about whatever it was that they were being pulled over for, and then reveal to them, okay, you have a warrant for your arrest. Sometimes they give them an opportunity to say, do you know if you're wanted? And then they give them an opportunity to comply, and then that looks good for them, especially with the jails so full of these wonderful astronauts and cancer-curing surgeons and the like. So they pulled him over. They got him out of the car. All this is the information we have so far, and revealed, or I guess maybe asked if he knew he was wanted, and revealed that there was a warrant for his arrest. He fought with the police, and to get away from them. Now they don't know at this point whether or not this individual has a firearm on him, and by I mean on his person, on his body, in the vehicle. But what's important here is that when he decided to get into the car, he was immediately in possession of a deadly weapon. The car. You don't need to have a gun or a sword or what have you to be in possession of a deadly weapon. A vehicle, as many people know, is possession of a deadly weapon. And at that point, law enforcement had the right to shoot him with a firearm. Actually, we just had this past summer where they released bogus statistics in New York, where they said that particular non-white race. They were killed when they were unarmed this many times. And what they had done in the misrepresentation of the data was they had taken out all cases where the assailant or the person who was attempting to be arrested had gotten back into a car or was driving a car. And of course, that is a deadly weapon. And so many people end up getting shot because they get behind the wheel of their vehicle, which they can kill a lot of people with. So the officer, and I believe this is probably the case, she pulled out her firearm rather than her taser. Now, supposedly on the audio, she is saying, taser, taser, I'm going to tase you repeatedly to this guy, but she has her firearm drawn. And it probably was the nervousness of the moment. Was he getting back in the car to get a gun, the same gun he had before, a different gun, whatever it might be? Is he just going to get into the car, spin around, run her over, run people over? So in that moment of having fought with him and who knows what kind of injury she may have had, she then threatened to taser him. He jumps in the vehicle and he's not complying, of course, and this is a wanted felon at this point, and she decides to go ahead and tase him. She ends up having the firearm, and it discharges around into this individual, and of course he drives off. On her body camera, it ends up saying that she says, oh darn, or some other word. I just shot him rather than tased him, even though he deserved to be shot or could be shot at that point because in the possession of a deadly weapon. Here's the thing. Because she is said that she made this mistake, because in that moment it seemed like a genuine, I made this mistake, I accidentally shot him rather than tase him, she now has opened herself up to manslaughter, which is kind of an easy case against her, which carries up to 10 years in jail. And she's going to end up getting 10 years in jail or something nearly, and I think a $10,000 or $20,000 fine, even though she had the right to shoot him with her firearm in that moment. Now, of course, what's going to happen is that and what's already happening is the regime media, they are all telling the world about what a good choir boy this guy was. I'm sure they'll be interviewing the preacher from the church that he attended twice when he was 11 years old. And he'll be telling the world what a great little boy he was and how he was on his way to walking on the moon or Mars or whatever it might have been. And the anti-whites will use the story. But here's the thing that's really interesting. And I think the UK audience will find this really fascinating. Also, Europe mainland will find this really fascinating, is that the anti-whites, because this guy has such a checkered background, coupled with the fact that the officer is not a white male, it is a white female. And as we know, over the past 10 years, they've been taking the privileges away from white females, which ultimately is a good thing for our people, so that white females stop siding with anti-whiteism, because they're living high on the hog, as we say down south, by doing so. Because of this, they're actually joining this story with other stories. Stories about, and this is also taking place simultaneously with the Chauvin trial, where so much evidence has come forward. Video evidence where you can see that Chauvin has his knee on the blade trap of this character, this miscreant on the ground. And the other video of his ex-girlfriend that was with him saying, why is he fighting with them? Why doesn't he just surrender to them? Why is he resisting what they want to do? And then why is he going to the hospital? What ended up happening? So obviously this person was not being murdered in the streets, according to this. So the anti-whites in the media, they're saying the case against this guy that got shot and died by the female police officer, this is just like this other case. And this Chauvin case, now we're gonna play the deflection game, pay a little less attention to that, pay more attention to the police officer who shot the black criminal, who went back to his vehicle. He's now paralyzed from the waist down, who fought with the police, went back to his vehicle, got on an interview and said, yeah, I had weapons in the car. And yeah, the police knew I had weapons in the car. And yeah, I was getting back in the car. And so now they're talking about how these individuals, these officers, were not charged. And therefore, here you have the pretexts to do what they were going to do anyhow. That is what's important to remember, folks, whether you're in the United States or elsewhere around the world. It's that the anti-whites are always just looking for pretexts to arrive at that conclusion of victimizing Western kind, Western civilization. So you will see more policies, more practices put in place and they will go after these different institutions. You will see more of funds being diverted, and we're already seeing what's happening with the Black Lives Matter leaders. They're buying multi-million-dollar mansions with the amount of money that they're making from having this, having BLM and going out into the streets. And I'm sure there are wonderful people in there, but nonetheless, for many, it's a giant racket. And we are already seeing in the streets the rioting and the destruction of Western civilization again. And we are, and I'll just make the final comment here on the Floyd trial. How are you going to get a fair trial for Chauvin when the jurors know that their names are going to be public after the trial, and then their lives, their families' lives, and et cetera, are at risk? It won't matter if this guy's found guilty or not guilty. If he's not drawn and quartered and guts spilled all over the street and head put on a pike at the entrance to the city, they are going to destroy Western civilization to the best of their ability. That's what's going on in the U.S. right now.